I'm Ronnie Thwaites. Today is March the 2nd. It's observed as Ash Wednesday. It's a public holiday in many Christian cultures here in Jamaica. It's also the first day of the season of Lent, observed by Catholics and many Protestant denominations. The official day is the Day of Ashes, so called because of the practice of rubbing ashes on one's forehead in the sign of the cross, Jesus' cross. Lent is intended to be a time of self-denial, moderation, fasting, and the forsaking of sinful activities and habits. So it's not uncommon to hear people saying they're giving up certain things for Lent. Well, it's today, see, I'm observing Ash Wednesday and the season of Lent, but with pain in my heart, because the injustice, the big sin, is what is coming over the CNN right now, that 2,000 people in Ukraine have been killed by these Russian troops. That some of the big cities are, Kasan is surrounded by Russian troops. What for? What for? And then the indignity and the shame. Venezuela, a country that I defend in its direction towards equality, towards certain socialist principles which I adopt, yes, is supporting Russia in this murderousness. Venezuela has been so kind to us and of good partnership in the Caribbean, yeah, with Petrocarib, would I love have it now? And they are supporting Russia to murder people in Ukraine? For? No, sir. Yeah, we really we need a season of repentance, eh? We need a time where we consider what are we living for, really? Yeah. We lift up liberty and humanity on this program. One's religious affiliation is important, but that's your choice. I would have keep the 12 tribe flag that Tony Rebel left in here a little while ago and wave it too. Yeah? Because they stand for humanity. They stand for justice. Justice for Nzinga. Justice for everybody, anywhere in the world. And no justice in Ukraine right now because of what these Russians are doing. Yeah, and so I want to hear the word again coming from our leaders, the religious leaders, the political leaders, everybody with a voice. Yeah, Ronnie too. Yes, to condemn that and to say we cannot live this way. And we in Jamaica must be sure we never entertain any of that arbitrariness, that warlike behavior that causes so much crime and murder. Yeah, whether it's official or whether it is individual, it don't matter. It's the same blood flowing. Oh my God, what a thing. Ash Wednesday, day 7 of the Ukraine war. Russia makes gains as missiles terrorize cities. What for? What for? On this program, we have the feature which we cherish so much, Educate Jamaica. And later on this morning, Dr. Kasan Troupe, the acting chief education officer, and the acting deputy chief education officer for school operations, Janet Bryn, are going to join us to talk about the resumption of full face-to-face classes next Monday, March the 7th. Yeah, we need that. But we also need to make sure that what they're being taught in school is the ways of peacefulness and order, the ways of compassion and respect for themselves, yes, and of others too. That's what we need. Yes. I see a group of young police cadets on South Camp Road. All of them have big gun walking up the road, yes, and pointing gun all over the place. I suppose it's part of their training. I told them to put down the guns. That's not what we need. Yes. Only in the most extreme cases. Don't teach the young people how to kill one another and to kill different people. We want an ethic. We want a culture of peace, not a war. Yeah. Really sad, you know. Really, really sad. Well, later on in the program today, when we join our friends at Irie Jam, no doubt Irwine Clare, who will be in for Beauregard today, will give us the impression of their audience, their demographic on the issue of Mr. Biden's speech last night. Strong speech, you know. But at the same time, the marauders are still all over Ukraine. Thank God. Our picnic of them coming home this afternoon. Yeah? Very nice. Blessings to all those who have made it possible. Government was slow to start, but they kind of catch up. Okay, that's good. Congratulations to the opposition. They took a lead. Yes, and that doesn't matter who start first and who comes second, you know. Whether you're a Greek or Roman or Jew or Gentile. What matters is that you're European towards life and the upliftment of humanity and community. That's what we want to do. What a shame in the 21st century, 2022, and we have a war, a totally unprovoked, unnecessary war, broke out and killed thousands of people. Yeah, Mr. Putin tells the Ukrainian security forces to lay down arms and fight for his side. Well, I want to tell the Russian soldiers, that them for do, and resist and disobey, even at the cost of personal sacrifice. This warmonger who is upsetting the peace of Europe and of the world. You don't think it's going to touch you? Well, I tell you, right now, it's going to be a serious problem, because you hear the Minister of Finance yesterday in Jamaica already saying that we have to brace ourselves for higher gas prices. And when gas go up, everything go up. Food price go up, electricity go up, every striking thing go up. So we have to suffer for what him want to do in Ukraine. Why? And what we do? We should repudiate it. We have repudiated it, but we need to do more strongly. Okay? That's for sure. And when Mr. Clark, trying gentleman as I'm sure he is, that's the Minister of Finance, says that the price is going to go up, but he hopes it does. He expects that it won't stay there for long. When you ever see gas price go down in Jamaica, miss? When that ever happen? Sir? I beg you, please. Don't. Yes, it rise by many dollars and go down by cents. Yes? So, I beg you, don't take time for fool. No, sir. What is that? Nigel, you're so bright you shouldn't say them things. Yeah, this is the public eye and the open mind. We talk it straight on this program, no gossip and no slander. We uphold the freedom of the people, the beauty of life, the cherish of humanity from conception to final end. Yeah, and we love Jamaica and reach out to the Jamaicans everywhere, anywhere in the whole world. Yeah, that's what the bridge stands for. The bridge is a new concept, a brand new philosophy in media in Jamaica, communicating the goodness, the wisdom, the grace of Jamaicanism, Jamaicanness to the whole world. It's 11 minutes after 12 o'clock. Well, I can tell you, the issue of back to school is on the mind of most people in Jamaica, and it's also on the mind of many of our listeners in the diaspora, isn't it? Because there is a serious issue. Children have been out of school the better part of 2 academic years, from March 2020, and and March 2022 now, so it's really 2 years. Yeah. So what is the position? Need to get them back, and they need to be assessed when they come back. I'm sure Dr. Troupe and Mrs. Brim will tell us what measures they're going to take to ensure that we don't just juke the picnic back in the school and expect everything to go on like it did in February 2020 before the pandemic, We have to do much more, and how children are going to be safe, and how parents are going to be reassured, and how teachers are going to be protected and encouraged. All of these things are important for us as we make our way, as we get conscious as a nation and understand we have a place in the world. Yeah. Russian arsenal includes banned cluster bombs and vacuum bombs. What a wicked people, eh? I'm against capital punishment, but when a man is a leader, one of the richest men in the world is in fact becoming a predator on everybody around him. How that go? Yes? Killing people who have no quarrel with him at all. All they want in Ukraine is to go on with their lives. And they were so generous, they took a lot of our Jamaican people and have educated them and were educating them. And the whole of that pull up now. Yeah. So, we have to have a wide view of things, and we have to recognize our own principles and live by them. Yeah. Can't just go ahead and say, boy, so it's set. And nothing ever happened. We need spiritual healing in this place now. In our Global Connection Hour, later on, Vice President of Community Development for Resorts World Casino in New York City, Miss Michelle Stoddart, joins us to speak about her trailblazing leadership, her passion for community development, and her company's support for over 200 nonprofit organizations in the New York metropolitan area. Okay. And of course, that will be when we join the studios of our sister station, Irie Jam Radio in New York. Irwine Clare, I think, will be with us. I'm going to invite him to take the lead in that interview for Miss Stoddart. And of course, we'd love to hear from you. The phone line is 876-676-4996. And those in the tri-state area can join the discussions by calling 1-888-546-8742. Well, it's coming up to the quarter after the hour. Let's take a short break and come back. So welcome, Dr. Kasan Troupe.
Thank you so much, Reverend Thwaites. Good afternoon to you and your listeners.
Thank you very much. The Acting Chief Education Officer, Dr. Kasan Troupe, is going to tell us about how we are managing to send all of our children back to school next Monday. There are a whole heap of people listening to us abroad, who they send resources, they have their children here. They're anxious to know if things are going to be safe and if they're going to be productive. Please reassure us.
I want to reassure all my listeners, all my parents, all my teachers, all my principals, that we are really working assiduously to get back our students into the learning environment. If you reflect with me, Rev, it's almost 2 years exactly.
Yes.
Almost.
March
we
20.
closed March 12th last year.
Yes.
2 years ago, rather.
Mm-hmm.
And we are back in March. So you can just imagine what has happened to many of our students throughout that period, and not knowing this kind of experience, having had to adjust to many changes as we evolve and treat with the pandemic. And now we are there again, where we have to make another leap of faith. We have to take another step back into the learning environment, and we are doing so fully opening our doors to face-to-face on March the 7th, 2022, for all our boys and our girls. Now, our principals have been spoken with. We understand that there are some fears, and naturally so, because of the uncertainty with the virus.
Nobody has ever been here before, so that's bound to be the case.
Exactly. Yes. So we just want to reassure our parents that our principals and the leadership of the schools, they are taking the necessary steps to make sure the environment is, again, safer than normal. We just try to do everything each day, put in the protocols. The Ministry of Health has been working with us. And I must say, Rev, that our principals have done a remarkable job in getting the learning environment ready. The Ministry of Health has been in, they have inspected, they have approved, and that is how we can get the kind of assurance that we need to ensure that our students are safe.
So let's be clear. It's about what, 6 or nearly 800 schools at all levels, with probably more if you take into account the basic and infant schools, eh?
That will be opening.
Yes.
Yes, approximately 1,000.
Okay, and then all the teachers are going to come back?
All the teachers are to come back. All our students are to come back.
Very well.
We have a few schools that will need a little bit more time, because we are having the discussion with them to make some changes, especially our shift schools. And those schools that have been operating beyond their capacity. They're a little challenged because they made some changes with their timetables and so forth. And so they now have to go back to the drawing board to make some changes again, to redeploy staff. And that is going to take a little bit more time. But as you know, since January, all our students have been getting the opportunity of face-to-face.
Yes.
This is just increasing that opportunity where we can have everybody back in the face-to-face. What the Ministry of Health has said to us is that we are prepared, they are prepared to work with me to relax the 3 feet to 6 feet distancing in the classroom, because the schools had to do that to make sure that students are safe. And that is why we moved into the rotation that we did with the timetable, with students coming in this week or coming in tomorrow and work from home remotely or so.
Pause for me, Dr. Kasan. Pause for me, because I think we need to ask you, in the experiment so far of limited face-to-face with with the distancing and the rotation. Did we have an outbreak in the schools? Is there something that we have learned from that, or has it been reasonably smooth? Tell us.
It has been reasonably smooth. We have had reports of suspected and confirmed cases. In the last report I got, we had about 124 cases that were proven positive, tested positive. Okay. You had increased alerts in terms of suspected cases, but those were not proven to be so. But because of the training that we have and the protocols in place, persons know that they move back into the remote environment until confirmation is given. Once you are suspected to be exposed, there is a procedure in place where you move back into the remote, treat with the situation based on your testing or with the time that the Ministry of Health would inform that we remove ourselves from the environment and then we reintegrate in the environment. So the schools are familiar with that. But I must say, Rev, that over the period since January, we have not had any outbreaks in our schools. The principals and the teachers have been managing that successfully.
That's very important.
Where they are. That's important, that we are reassuring parents that the issue is being managed. Yes. The system is in place to treat with that. And where students may have elevated temperatures or where there are suspected cases, those will be treated with
you send them home.
We withdraw them.
My experience from looking it over is that where there has been a suspected case or a positive case, that class may have to go home for a period of time. But the whole school doesn't have to be dismissed. But the whole school
doesn't have to be in the remote environment because we know the difficulties of that, Rev. Yeah. Some students are just not connected. Some students are still struggling with the devices. We have had situations where parents bought devices, but the longevity of those devices, as you know, they are not lasting. They're not reliable, and so parents have to be digging more in. We have to treat with all of that in the context. And that is why we have said we are taking that step.
Yes.
And as you looked at the last update, the participatory rate is way down. So we are in a good place as a country. Yeah. And so we just have to focus now on treating with that learning gap that has been created as a result of the pandemic.
Okay, we're coming to that now. Now, let's look ahead to Monday next. When students come to school, will there be temperature checks? Will they be asked to wear masks? What precautions can be expected given the fact that your whole population is returning?
Yes, we still have to uphold some of the practices, especially as it relates to the washing of hands, the temperature checks, the wearing of masks. Those will not be relaxed. Mm-hmm. The only thing that we are relaxing now is the seating in the classroom because we want most of our, if not all of our students in. Everything else still obtains. So parents, once the children enter the school, they will be temperature checked at the gate. Those students with elevated temperature will be isolated and treated according to the ill person protocol. All our schools have isolation rooms and persons are trained. Even those schools that don't have established nurse posts, there are health and wellness committees in those schools that have been trained and they know how to react in matters of these situations.
But we're big people now. We've had 2 years of experience, some of it unhappy. Even if we don't have the formal training in healthcare, we know enough to observe when somebody is not feeling well. We care enough to call their parents or to make other arrangements. So it's about time that
enough learning.
Yes. Enough experience.
Enough experience is there to guide us.
Yes.
To guide us.
And that I think is an important thing because we have to learn from this that it's not we don't always have to look to the Ministry of Health. They give guidance. And you've told us, and I know it's true, that they've inspected all the plans and nothing is being done contrary to their best advice. Which is better than you can say in some other countries of the world. So,
and I must say, Rev, that perhaps this is the time that we have had most, if not all, of our schools inspected. Yes. And you know from experience that the Ministry of Health would need to be in school to do the institutional health inspection. But at any time ever than before, is now that our schools are looking good in terms of those inspections and getting the support from the Ministry of Health.
Well, let's also give the full facts. My understanding is that your ministry has been able to cut and carve and give schools some money so that they are better prepared with whatever supplies are needed. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, so the ministry, given the demands, more students in, our schools have been using their grants to treat with the sanitation and so forth. But given that more students will be in, through the consultations with our principals, we understand the expense that is involved in treating with the wash stations and so forth. So the ministry has taken the decision to provide additional grants to our high schools and our infant and primary schools. Our infant and primary schools will get $250,000 each to assist with the sanitation, whilst our high schools will get an additional $500,000 to treat with the sanitation. We know also that there's going to be more demand for furniture, and so the central ministry is treating with the gaps that have been reported at the infant and primary level to distribute furniture for those schools, and we have started that, and that will be ongoing as we try to respond to all the needs. Because over the break, we have some termite issues in our schools,
Sure.
and so we lost some of our furniture in that way. So we have to respond to that. Our high schools, they have their procurement procedures in place and are able to manage a little quickly and organize themselves. So we are giving them the grants. Each high school will get $800,000 to assist with the procurement of furniture to treat with their gaps as well.
Good.
So those resources will be out in the schools, hopefully. The processing have been done. We're just making sure that things are in the schools by Thursday the latest.
Yes.
And by Friday, if worst case scenario, I know today's a holiday, worst case scenario Friday. So we are trying to make sure that that is there. But what we know is that the schools have the grants, and many of them, the leadership, they have taken decision to address those matters ahead of time whilst we reimburse them.
So they should. Now, let's say, I would love a situation where some of the heaps of disused furniture that you see in schools, that perhaps they could be given to the technical schools or those with a woodwork department and rehabilitated. What a wonderful educational lesson that would be. And also...
Rev, to be honest, that is actually happening.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Yes, the fact that when I said to you that we are treating with the gaps, it is actually our high schools that have manufactured these furnitures. We are picking these furniture, we are picking them up from them, and we are redistributing, and we actually pay for them. So it's actually a contractual arrangement
with the school
that the ministry entered into with these schools. Yes. We provided them with the seed fund, and they are using the students and the teachers to manufacture, and we pay for them.
Excellent. Now, we want to keep that going. And again, Dr. Kasan, Troupe, I went to a big high school, and some of the best learning I had was under a tree outside, for whatever reason. So I want our listeners, our parents, particularly those with HS abroad, and I'm not cussing them, I'm just identifying them. If your child has to small up themselves for the first week or two, it is more important that they are at school than if they resist or stay at home for whatever reason. Yes, we have to build back the culture of full attendance in school, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so we're encouraging parents. I know there may be some sense of fear and anxiety, but trust us, trust your school environment, work with your school environment, and support your school environment in getting back your students, your children in school. That is the safest place for them to be, and that is the best place for them to be to benefit from the instructions that should be provided to them. So give us a chance, give the system a chance, and as Rev said earlier, the protocols are known. Once there's a situation, the principals know what to do. So it is not a case where your child will be endangered and nothing will be happening for that child to protect that child or to protect that community. The experience is there, the know-how is there, the signage, those are up. The wash stations are there. We asked our principals in our bulletin to maximize on the physical space, as you have said, Rev, the outside space, the outdoors. Those structured mass breaks.
Sure.
So the students can get a chance to breathe a little bit, in a structured, safe space outside and so forth. So that kind of instruction and direction have been provided to our schools, and they have been practicing that.
Tell me now.
I do believe we can manage this next phase as we get everything normalized.
Tell me the story about extracurricular activities, particular sports. Is it opening up to include that?
Well, you know, Rev, that through the ISA organization and so forth, as you have seen national events taking place, that kind of support is already on the ground, where our principals, our coaches, our PE teachers are already aware of how to manage the sporting environment, you know, how to keep the students in their bubble, how to make sure that they are sanitized. And as you know, for the ISA sports competition, the students are required to be vaccinated. They are not able to play in those competitions without being vaccinated, and that's
Correct.
a plus.
It is.
Once that has been happening already, and so that extra layer of protection already exists. And for those new competitions coming up, like the track and field, as you know, coming up soon, those students, if not yet, they are required to be vaccinated.
And ordinary sports activities, physical education in school must go on, you know, ma'am.
Yes, that has been going on since the resumption. What we do is to still maximize on the space. We treat with the equipment. We talk about sanitizing the equipment, limiting the number of persons who work with a particular set of equipment at a particular time and so forth. So that guideline is already there, and those are being practiced.
Good. Well, let's hope that all that you have said will mollify people's fears, and we want full attendance on Monday. We want it like September morning usually is. We're transferring September morning to March the 7th with a great sigh of relief and a whole heap of enthusiasm. I want to say that, let me say it, it's been the most difficult time for school administrators and for you in the Ministry of Education. And while there's many things I'm sure if you had to do it over, you would do differently, it has been managed reasonably well. And we must build on that rather than looking back and saying what wasn't done. Let's get them back into school and let's catch up now. That has to be the mantra, eh? That
has to be the mantra. And as you know, many of our small schools, all our students are already back.
Yes.
So this is just really for the larger schools, you know, moving in this direction. Many of our small schools are fully back, and they have been managing. We have not had a breakout, you know, in any of those schools.
We're good at criticism, and me included, but really, the difficulties that that somebody like Minister has had to face, certainly when I was there, I didn't have that kind of problem, you know. we must be grateful for what we have been able to do, even as we try and do better. Now, take me on to the other issue that I'm sure is in people's minds. How are we going to catch up when we go back to school? Because we've lost so much time. You've told us on this program about the particular extra lessons that are going to be offered. Remind us of that and tell us, first of all, what kind of assessment is really possible.
So we are focused now, once that we're thinking of three things: the reopening, the recovery, and the resilience. Those are the three R's driving us now at the Ministry of Education in our schools. So, we have been treating the reopening, and we're looking back at this final phase. Hopefully, we won't have to pull back based on what happens with this pandemic. So we are going full speed ahead with the reopening. As I indicated, there are a few schools that parents have to listen and be guided that will still need next week to work through some issues with reorganizing their spaces for learning, redeploying their staff and so forth because of how they have organized, especially, as I said, that those shift schools. They will need a little bit more time to work through some changes. So I want my parents to be aware of what instructions are being sent out by the principals and the school boards. Secondly, as we move into having everybody in, we have started already to have persons registered for the extra lesson homework program. So this is an initiative that we are launching, fully funded by the Ministry of Education, to increase learning time, to increase time on task. So the internal assessment and the national assessment data should guide our principals, our teachers, in referring and ensuring that these students register. Those students who are performing way below standard, there is a phase or an aspect of the program that treats with those students face-to-face. Those students are to be given 4 extra hours of extra classes or homework time after school in those regular scheduled school, and for the shift school either in the morning or in the midday.
4 extra hours.
4 extra hours each week. 2 hours each day for 2 days per week.
Okay.
that these students are given the face-to-face opportunities, and we are recruiting teachers to give up themselves in the afternoon, do these 4 hours, and we are compensating them to spend this extra time with those students.
Let me understand. This is going to be based upon the assessment of each child's situation.
Of each child, yes.
Will that assessment, tell me who is going to do it, when it's going to be done, and will it be shared with parents so that they can also get a feel of what their child needs?
Well, the good thing is that when we started this academic year, we actually did an assessment. So there is a data set that is available to our schools. We did the analysis from the central ministry, and we sent it back. In some instances, these assessments were administered at school. We also asked our schools to create in-class or what we call school-led assessments if they don't use the national tools that we send, that they design instrument locally and administer those. So we know that there is data inside our school that will guide the decision as to who benefit from the face-to-face.
Yes, really encouraging that this should be shared with parents so that it can be a collaborative process from here on. If the Honorable Parental Charles were with me today, he would remind you of the school that he's familiar with, where the teacher has confided in him that there has been tremendous a fallback in the student's ability to read and to compute over the 2 years. Now, is in a case like that, which I don't think is isolated, in fact, we know it's not isolated. Let's read the Royal Bank report. Let's read the Patterson report. Is 2 hours, 2 days a week, is it enough, and for how long will it go on?
Well, this process will continue right up to the end of June. And then we will transition into our summer school intervention for another month. So the focus really is to provide extended learning. As I said, we are treating it those who require the face-to-face in the learning environment. We also have the online version of the extra lessons, where we are working with service providers, educational service providers, to provide access to 30,000 students in the virtual space. One-on-one is one of those providers, the Learning Hub and EduFocal. They are working with us. That information has been shared with our schools, and I'm hoping that would have been shared with our parents.
Okay, but
it's know. But the bulletins are in circulation, so I'm asking our parents to go on our website to make sure that you're fully abreast of the learning opportunities available. Those are fully funded opportunities as well, Rev, that our students can capitalize on. So those who have the devices, those who have access to the internet, that opportunity is available. If you have none of those, you can stay in your school environment, and we are going to be doing 4 hours of work every week right up to June, and then we transition for 1 month of summer school.
Okay, now let's say this. Every parent listening to us, every guardian must, whether they are computer literate or not, they must find a way to understand what are the opportunities for their child to catch up. There is the virtual opportunities for which you have outlined. There is the additional extra lessons. So don't bother tell the picnic you have to come home and you have to do this, when in fact extracurricular activities must not get in the way of intense application of those 4 hours, eh?
Right, and that is why we talk about the organization, because it's 2 days. Yes. So we are saying parents use the other days for the children to do the extracurricular and their sport, and maximize on these 4 hours.
Well, and I'm really urging you and begging you, look at it, and if it's not enough, then we have to increase it. That month of summer is a good move. It's a necessary move, even if there wasn't any pandemic. Now there is. We're going to have people. I'm wanting to get your message across to people that don't want to make plans for to carry the picnic to go here or do this. if they're not up to the grade level that they're moving into, that is the worst thing you could do for them. The best thing is to insert them in these programs, however limited you may think they be.
Right, and there are other opportunities.
Tell me.
We have the archived lessons, we have 2 televised stations running. We have them on YouTube as well. So once you have a regular TV set with your antenna, you can pick up our television station. You don't have to have cable.
Yes.
Right? But if you have a cable provider, you can just call your cable provider and they will give you the code so you can access the televised program.
That's a tremendous surge forward, because that means that lessons you have missed, lessons that you need to revise or to repeat will be available for you there.
24 hours. 24 hours.
You know,
students can learn at their leisure. And I can tell you, Rev, I have a teenager in my house.
Yes.
And YouTube has become his best friend. He goes on and he goes for topics and he's just watching persons teaching him different ways of doing this. And that's the kind of learning attitude we want for our students.
And that's because...
Not just to wait on teachers, but to take yourself up and to go and find information and extend your learning opportunities.
No, older children can make best use of that. Younger children have to be
guided.
Gradually guided into that. But and this is where parental responsibility and the covenant between the parents and the family and the school come into being. Because it's not just a question any longer of saying a picnic go to school and teacher must teach him. In this crisis, it is vital.
Everybody. Everybody has to play that role, Rev. Our parents. And if anything else that we have learned from this pandemic, Rev, is the importance of parental involvement.
Well, this is it, And it's hard for them because people are trying to catch up, find jobs, being in difficulties maybe. But this is something that we can do, and if the tools are available, then it would be a tragedy if we don't make full use of them.
Make use of it, yes. So parents are making the appeal, Rev. Parents, again, we are going back in the full face-to-face. We have extended learning opportunities. So in addition to the regular timetable classes, we have 4 hours of extra work for face-to-face. We have learning opportunities in the virtual space for those who can't stay back and you have access to devices. We have a 24-hour channel focused on primary level education and a 24-hour channel focused on secondary level education. All of these materials are also archived on our educate.gov landing page. Parents can always go there. We have lesson plans there. We have videos there. We have PowerPoints there. We have everything there that you can use to support your students at every level. If you're a child struggling, there's material there for that child.
So therefore,
in addition to that, Rev, we have our coaches, our literacy and numeracy coaches. They will be out in full force. Getting back into the physical space, doing the coaching with our students, doing the pull-out lessons, doing the common planning, and doing the parental engagement, again, as part of the opportunity to get our students back on track.
So let's make a plan. Within the first 2 or 3 weeks of school, after March 7th, I want us to encourage every parent or guardian to go to school with their child, whatever age, whatever grade, get clarity as to the assessment of that student's position after returning to school after such a long time, and to be given almost a checklist as to what are the best remedies for whatever difficulties or deficiencies there are. Wouldn't that be a wise thing to do?
That would be a wise thing to do, Rev.
Yes.
Excellent recommendation, parents.
Yes.
Just keep that communication. And even if you can't physically go, we have the opportunities of the technology, Rev.
Right.
There are several meetings that are being held at local spaces on the virtual space. There's a neighbor next door who you can talk with. Don't just be a stranger, because we have to support each other. We have to get back to the point of community parenting.
Lord, Miss,
where we support each other.
Churches.
Yes. So if
every
you
child
go
in
to
your
and the neighbor can go talk to the neighbor.
And every church should be saying about their children, tell me how you are doing. Tell me what pickup you're taking place. Can I advise you to check this one, or can I help you with a phone call to the other place? Listen, time is going.
And ask about the learning plan. What is your learning plan? What has been developed and put together for you to help you to get back on track? That is an important question to ask.
Yes. Okay, Ms.
By our leaders.
I can't let you go without asking you about food. Food is such an important thing. Plenty of the picnic, as you know, the parents don't have the wherewithal. How soon are we going to be able to deepen the school feeding program?
We we have started to send back the funds to schools. You know, in the pandemic, we sent it. We partnered with the Ministry of Labour, and that went to the homes. But now we have sent it back, so our schools are prepared to provide, to cook the meals for our students who are on pass and those who are in need. So that resource is in our schools, and they have been responding to that. We have not had many cries, Rev, with respect to that, because our schools have made the adjustments. We are going to have the Nutrition Products Limited back on board as well to provide breakfast for some of our students who are in need. 100,000 students will benefit from the breakfast program.
I'm praying for the multiplication of loaves and fishes for that breakfast program. The 100,000 would be good, but we, as you know, we need 500,000.
And that's an increase, Rev. We used to do 60,000.
We know.
We're putting it up to 100,000. So we're getting there.
Too slowly. This is wonderful news. Let us encourage the ministry. Let us encourage the teachers and the parents, and particularly we're reaching out to the parents and their supporters in the diaspora today. And no more 20% absenteeism from school. We want everybody back there face-to-face next Monday.
Get in touch with your school's parents. Get the correct instructions so you know. Be informed. And as Rev said, ask for that learning plan.
Yes.
Ask for that learning plan. You deserve that. Every child deserves that.
Can we ask in future episodes of Educate Jamaica, can we track for our people how that learning renaissance is taking place? Where are the difficulties? Learning what are the advantages, and reciting some of the opportunities that are available. What a wonderful surge forward for Jamaica that would be, ma'am.
Yes, certainly. We should track this, Rev.
Yes, let's do it. Thank you so much for the work you do. Blessings to the ministry, and thank you for Educate Jamaica today.
Thank you, Rev. God bless you, and God bless your listeners.
Dr. Kasan Troupe is the Acting Chief Education Officer. We consider Educate Jamaica to be one of the most important segments that we do on the bridge. Education comes first. Education is critical. Listen up, people abroad. Help your children in Jamaica. It's the best thing you can do for them. Don't bother with not only the pretty clothes and all the other nice things. Help them, mentor them, encourage them, send them what they need in order to go to school every day and take in the learning. That's our principle. We soon come back. This is the Public Eye on the Bridge. Coming up on the Public Eye, on the Bridge Nation, a connection with Irie Jam in New York in just a few moments. And then after that, we hope to discuss the assessment of what President Biden said last night. And then an interview with Miss Michelle Stoddart of Jamaican origin, Vice President of Community Development for Resorts World Casino in New York City, and indeed many other things. I want to reflect for a minute or two, though, on the interview I had with Dr. Troupe about Educate Jamaica. Listen, come and break it down. The first thing is that next Monday, whether the picnic have the right shoes or uniform, or whether, provided they're not sickly, send them to school. Even before the pandemic, yes, 20% of our children weren't going to school every day, you know. You realize what a loss that is? And so please, right now, we have to turn September morning into March morning. The same way everybody goes to school on September mornings. That's what they have to do. This time on March 7th. So wherever you are in the world, if you have some connection with a child who is in school, anywhere from age 3 to age 18 in Jamaica, do I beg you, let them come out and go to school. And whatever you have to sacrifice for the bus fare, if they go to school and tell principal, yes, they don't have to shame, they will get some good food. Okay? Now that's very, very important. So do not keep the child home because they don't have lunch money. Send a little note to teacher, yes, that the Western Union don't come, or the daddy never get pay, or something mix up, and you're asking teacher to make sure that the child, the young person, has food. And don't bother scorn the school food. Say it don't taste nice, or it don't like that, or she don't eat this. Yes? Good, wholesome food is something to be treasured. Fenkiness in diet is a problem we have, And we cause ourselves all kinds of ailments and distress because of that, you see. So it's a time to be very down to earth, very realistic, and I'm really asking that you support the efforts of the education system to get all the children back in school. We will not see the negative effects of what we have lost. Dr. Troupe knows my position. My view is that the measures, ample though they are, well-intentioned though they extremely are, to help people to pick up after the 2 years out of school are not enough. We need to redo those years, yes, to be absolutely sure that everybody is up to scratch. But since we are not doing that, then the important thing to do is to use every measure at our disposal. The social media business, just contain it now. If the best lessons can be gleaned on YouTube, as she says, 24/7 ordinary channel, you don't have to pay nothing. Everybody have TV in Jamaica, some free to air, all have that. And so if you can get your primary school or your high school lessons that way, it's not the same as face-to-face, it's not a substitute for face-to-face, but what it can do is to supplement it. There is nothing more important than this. This should be dominating political discussion, religious discussion, yes, any entertainment discussion. Send the picnic go to school and make sure that any gaps are being picked up by virtual instruction and by every other means that is being made available to you. Hello, the CNN said that the oil brush, $113 today, Richie. Yes, a barrel. Okay. Jamaica was budgeted for oil somewhere in the $70, yes, and it reached over 100 now, 113. Hope it don't stay there because it go a little up and down, but it's now going to get better right now. So do you realize what that is going to do to the price of gas, light, food, everything else? So take it serious now. This is no time for anesthetic. It's no time for depression either. It's time for us to be realistic, to be helpful to one another. I want to ask Irwine Clare, our friend in New York, on Irie Jam when he joins us in a while, how he thinks Mr. Biden scored last night. Can you imagine? There were people, must be before the Russian invaded, who are actually Republican people in the United States who are supporting the Russian invasion. Can you imagine that? Yeah. So are they still predominant? Have they changed their mind? Is this a way and a time when people in that great nation that we look up to so much, that so many of our people are listening to us from, yes, can they come together? Can they give up the little ism and schism in order to really fight this thing and save some people's lives? Oh my, what an opportunity. And if you never do that, if you don't do that, if you take your own desire for power, your own warped ideological position, because that is what it is, it has to be called out. Yes, if you take that and do not support this effort, then I wonder how you can call yourself patriotic, eh? My goodness. Russia is moving banned munitions and vacuum bombs to mow down the Ukrainian people. For what? And when they mash up the economy, yes, and subdue the people, and depose the government, the elected government. Tell me something now. What is the victory? What are they going to do? How are they going to support anything? How the people must just love them because them do that? Understand the folly of selfishness, the folly of this addiction to political power, this resurgence of empire. This resurrection of Joseph Stalin and the Tsar of Russia and Catherine the Great. Yeah? Repudiated Jamaican government on behalf of the Jamaican people and show us by your motion that we will never go in that direction of autocracy again. Yes? Mr. Biden said last night that democracy always trumps, he didn't use that word, autocracy. Yes, well, I would love to think so, but it just doesn't happen that way. It requires the full engagement of our people and the vigilance of the media, of all thought leaders, and of all people of goodwill. Eh? One other item of news that just struck me, I share as much as I can with you, my audience, is that I understand that in the United States, the vaccines for the children under 5 are nearing completion. That would be very good, And as soon as they're available, more in Jamaica get some. Because all of the reticence that Dr. Troupe was speaking about with me to do with the going back to school would be allayed further if we had vaccination for our children. This is the time on the public eye from the Bridge 99 that we join our friends at Irie Jam in New York. Irwine Clare, Ash Wednesday greetings to you, man.
Greetings to you, Ronnie Thwaites. I should say Reverend Ronnie Thwaites on a day like this. I didn't get my ashes this morning, and by the way, Ash Wednesday here is just another Wednesday.
I know that. Yes, well, what I gather from you is that our people will still remember the significance of the occasion. And that's of importance to us, to keep those cultural references very much alive.
Without a doubt. I mean, it is on our calendar. The reality of the situation, however, is that when we got up this morning, we were focused on catching the bus or catching the train,
yes,
as opposed to relaxing in our beds and
sure.
and doing whatever people do on Ash Wednesday. Yes,
yeah, that's it.
Yes.
Well, there you go. Irwine Clare, before we entertain our guest, what is your impression? What are you hearing of the reaction of President Biden's State of the Union address last night? Most of us in Jamaica would have watched it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I watched it, and for me it was a short speech. Actually, 62 minutes.
Good.
When you consider the plethora of things that he touched on,
yeah.
It caused the talking heads now to start saying he didn't touch on this, he didn't touch on that. But then we remind ourselves, 62 minutes, let's look at all the things he touched on and what it evoked, what it caused. Soft issues was what he dealt with that evoked bipartisanship, where people actually stood up, both sides stood up. When you see the minority leader of the Senate actually stood up and clapping, you know that it's coming from a far away.
Well, tell us about that, because I was perhaps distracted. I was watching to see to what extent this presentation could be a barometer of any possibilities of the kind of unity within the American governance system that would put Mr. Putin and his autocracy and his dictatorship to shame. How much was there?
Well, a couple of things. We got to look at it. The State of the Union address is a significant milestone for any presidency. It can sink or cause you to continue to float. And I must say that after last night, Biden continues to float. And I say that in a positive sense, as opposed to sink. Meaning that when you listen to the talking heads thereafter, the positives overweighed the negatives. And when you saw what it caused, it gave that sense of people saying, I am happy that this guy is president, not the other guy at this particular time. Because even when you listen to the report from the governor of Iowa who responded for the Republicans, you could see the challenges there. And you could see the kind of challenges that we would have had and the continued vitriol and probably not the type of harmony that is required at this particular time to deal with this whole situation. Because as you know, Ronnie, that under normal circumstances, the United States have always coalesced around their leadership in times like these. But we're going through some rather challenging times because we saw where many in the Republican Party were basically siding with Putin. And we now see them belly flopping and trying to rein in back what they have said.
Well, we're glad for the belly flop, though, Irwin.
Yeah, well, of course. But you see, so when he touched on the issues, Biden was purposeful in his messaging last night. He touched on the issues that would cause the cruisers of the world to stand on issues when he spoke of the border and he spoke of security. And when he spoke of the whole situation of Ukraine and where we are as it relates to Putin, it forced all those hardliners on the Republican side who have had a history of support for these initiatives to now stand up and show where they are, as opposed to the sidebars.
Just tell me, there was a time last night in Biden's speech that Ted Cruz stood up?
Yeah, when it relates to the border protection.
Okay.
And what he was doing there. But, and whole situation of funding the police. And if you heard what Biden said, funding the training and also the other facets of policing that makes it more amicable for us as a people.
Yes.
So he touched on the issues.
I was looking for the television camera to pan out on AOC.
She was there. She
time.
stood up. Yeah, well, she stood up for other issues too.
Yes.
Yes. And we didn't see the pan on her on that particular note. It would have been interesting.
Well, listen now, the presidency and indeed the United States as a nation is in a very ticklish position because there are deep internal divisions. Will they coalesce around a condemnation of and reaction to the real condign iniquity of what Russia is doing, Irwine Clare?
Yes, they will. And I think the society will force them to do so. Even the Kathans of the world who has now put a bill to say that we will not support Ukraine unless the border situation is dealt with.
Who is that? Tom Cotton?
Yes. So the point is this: is that what you see, public sentiment right now around Ukraine, I think, has brought the country at a point where we recognize we have to support, and the politicians are following. Yeah. Those who are on the Fox News with those guys at night heralding Putin's wordings are now realizing that they have to follow their constituents.
Well, except that they have no compunction to twist their mouth at the slightest provocation. I mean, them say anything, and if them say the opposite next time, even Jamaica's a fool, Irwine Clare. We look upon them, some of them, and we say, we are do. Now, last night you said this. No, tonight you said the opposite.
And many Americans aren't foolish either. They know really that too.
So.
They just switch back and say, well, wait, this is what you said last week.
Yeah.
What are you saying now?
Yeah.
But again though, like I said, I think that going into the speech last night, the unit speech last night, there were apprehensions, there were concerns, there were criticisms about the management of Joe Biden, whether or not he was strong and enough to this. But he delivered last night.
Yes, he did.
He delivered last night.
I certainly felt that way, and people were looking for him to flop, and he never flopped. And certainly the aspects of it that came strongly about foreign policy and the reaction to the tyranny of Russia in Central Europe, and also the breadth. It was a grocery list really, but strong, clear positions on a number of domestic issues that are of great significance.
Yes.
But Mr. Clare, how are you going to manage with $113 oil, sir? And what can we can say from our various purchases about what effect that's going to have upon little Jamaica and our weak balance of payments situation?
Well, the question now begs itself. The United States will find ways around this. My challenge, of course, has to do with my country and countries in the Caribbean, how they deal with that. And we talk about the hedge fund, the oil hedge. Do we have it?
No.
Why did we get rid of it? But then those are decisions at that time taken governments have to make. Now we see why those things do work, especially in the whole changing dynamics in today's world.
Yeah, but
we
need to pause there because we were taxed in order to pay the insurance premium, so that if the oil went up to over a certain level, like it was $64, we would get the money to cushion it, right? Right now, we're still paying the tax. We don't have the insurance, so we're going to get the big lick of the higher prices, and we still do not fully know how they calculate the price to the Jamaican pump. I am urging advocacy by the diaspora, strong diaspora voices that Jamaica has to listen to more and more, because it's you financing the country for the most part, okay? And where you say, listen, you have to stop to this. You have to come clean, tell us what we can do, what is the best situation. We know it's going tough, but at the same time, the little Jim Screechy of the past cannot last any longer. There has
to be transparency. There has to be transparency, and I think people understand the harshness of situations when they see it happening, if it is fully explained and we understand for sure, and we trust who's telling us the story that it is so.
Yes.
And there has to be transparency, because there's some hard road ahead. Because if you're moving from 74 to 113 and you peg your budget at 74, then we have serious challenges here.
Yeah.
What is going to give here? And remember, we still have a pandemic on. We're still saying that we're going to be learning to live with COVID-19, whatever that means. Yeah. The point is that we have to deal with it. But Ronnie, I understand that we have a guest online.
Well, please introduce your guest, guest.
But Ronnie, today there's the second day of Women's History Month, and one of the things that we're doing here on Irie Jam here in New York, and I'm quite certain the bridge will be connected to the bridge, is that we highlight, which we always do every day, but this particular month, we have some stalwarts in our community. Our women have always paved the way, Ronnie. And if one thing in the immigration, especially on the immigration front, it's usually the woman who migrates first and pave the way and bring up the rest of the family. And let me tell you, they still leave Jamaica knowing that they can take 1 shilling to the market and bring home 100 whole heap of goods, something that I could never do with $10 or 10 shillings. But they still continue to do that and make better for their family. And in so doing, set a legacy for their children to aspire to. One such is this young lady who is the Vice President of Community Development at Resorts World Casino here in New York City, which incidentally, Ronnie, was the first casino, I think, that came into New York, especially here in Queens. And it has since 2011 been doing some wonderful things as a result of the stewardship of this lady who hails from Westmoreland. And let me tell you, I was at their 10th anniversary recently, Ronnie, and I sat in a room, and when I saw the gathering of individuals there, these were the leaders in our society. And this lady was the organizer of the event, and all eyes were on her. In other words, whether it would be the chairman, the CEO, they reverted to her. Whom are we talking about? We're talking about Miss Michelle Stoddart, and we welcome her to this program, Public Eye, Open Mind, in this second day of Women's History Month. Good day, Miss Stoddart.
Good afternoon, Irwin, and let me say not only good afternoon to Reverend Ronnie Thwaites, but oh my God, to be sitting here with the legend himself, I am beyond honored.
She talking you no.
Well, Michelle Stoddart, how happy to greet you. Welcome home this afternoon. Tell us which part of Westmoreland you come from.
So I'm from Savlamar.
Tell you.
I grew up right across from Manning's School.
Yes.
I attended.
You went to Manning's.
So I was there, and go back. We still have a home there, so that's where I go back to every time I go home.
Lovely. Well, now that's marvelous. We love when people like yourself go abroad. You never forget where your navel string buried. No. Yes, and you live and work as citizens of both countries. That is the way of the future. That's great. Tell us your story. What took you to the U.S. and what took you into the broad range of business and philanthropy that now characterize your life?
Sure. So, like I said, I grew up in Westmoreland, Savlamar. Went to Unity Primary School, then to Manning's High School.
Yes.
And then to Manning's High School. And, after graduating from Manning's, I started working at NCB and, did that, went all the way to working at the Atrium in Kingston.
Tell you.
And, at that time, you had migration going on. So, it affects every family in Jamaica. And I had the opportunity to come to the United States to go to college. And I took that. So that brought me here to the US, the pursuit of higher learning. And, just my life evolved after that with working in nonprofits, working for notable companies such as Essence Magazine. And I did marketing, public relations, and economic development. So ended up 10 years ago, actually 15 years ago at Queens Economic Development Corporation. And when I was looking for other opportunities, I heard word of a casino. Now, I'm not a casino person. I'll probably
Michelle, I want you to hold that point for us. We're going to take a global break. When we come back, we're going to talk about how you link with that casino. All right?
Absolutely, for sure.
We'll be right back. Yes, and of course, you're joined here 93.5 Irie Jam. I'm Irwine Clare, joined with Thwaites on the Public Eye Open Mind. Our special guest on this Ash Wednesday, the second day of Women's History Month, is none other than the Vice President of Community Development at the Resorts World Casino, New York City, and she hailed from SAV. Listen, Ronnie, before we go back to Michelle, one of the things that really makes us proud here is that we think about it again. We come from this little dot in the world and find ourselves in big cities in positions of authority and power. And that says a lot about us as a nation. And that's why today, as we speak to Michelle, we're hearing of our humble beginnings to the hallmark in the world of significant corporate change where things happen on a daily basis. And at the same time, how she uses and pivots to play a role in actually helping our community, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, but there's a good thing I want Michelle to address, because one of the admirable things, there are many critiques of American culture, society, but one of the admirable things is that they open the doors for people like Michelle to take her position based on her competence. Is that right, ma'am?
Yes, definitely. This company, which is actually international, is out of Malaysia.
Oh.
They came here, and I was hired and given the charge to make sure the opportunities flowed for the community, and especially knowing the diversity that is here in Queens. We certainly want that reflected on our property. Yeah. So that was a direct charge that made me know that I was in the right place.
Indeed. Before the break, you were talking about how got to the resort world. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, this is at the Aqueduct Raceway, where the Jamaican people used to go on a Saturday in September for the Red Stripe Cup to watch a racehorse. Anyway, Michelle, you're saying, go ahead.
Yeah, so at Queens Economic Development, I think I rose up to the level of director. The next step would have been the executive director position. We had some changes and brought in a very, very influential person for that role. So I started looking for other opportunities and heard about different developments that were coming to Queens, and certainly hearing about what was going to happen at Aqueduct and hearing about it being a casino. I said, let me go and look into that. And again, I'm not a casino person. I'm not a big gambler, but I had transferable skills. And when I talked to, I got in for an interview. And when I talked to the management team, I had several rounds of interview and just heard what they wanted this position to entail. I felt it was a perfect match, because I would be able to shepherd this company down the path of being a good neighbor in Queens. So when you think of casinos, they're mostly destinations, and they're not located in areas that have over 2.4 million people right outside their doorsteps, and they're not as accessible as this one was meant to be. So the role became extremely important to have a property here located around so many people, so accessible, and making them feel and knowing that we were here to hear their needs and to be able to be responsive.
So what does your job entail then? Because that what you've just described is unusual. I would not have associated that with any casino operation, limited though my knowledge of that is. Tell us more.
Sure. So I am the face and the door to which the community can come to. Usually if there's a complaint, or maybe it's noise, maybe it's traffic, whatever it is, they know that they're able to call me with this. All the guest feedback routes through my office. And then on the flip side, I'm the one going out into the community to assess ways in which this casino can be supported. So Irwin knows, he sees me at not only city council or community board meetings. I'm out there at events put on by not only diaspora, but by other organizations to make sure that not only do they have a face, but we also are able to support them to in economic endeavors, in social service endeavors, to to grow organizations in Queens and throughout the city.
Ronnie, one of the things that we should also note that back in the fiscal year 2019-2020, the resource were contributed near 400 million of the 1.5 billion dollars that New York City receives from the overall fund from gambling, and we're talking about the proceeds here goes towards education, and in fact one of the statistics that jumps out at me is that we're talking about near $3 billion over their existence as a casino here in Queens. So it's a significant economic contributor to New York City and extension New York State, and that's how they have managed to coexist. Because yes, there were lots of pushback with the casino coming here in Queens, but I think over the years through Ethos, roles that Michelle Stoddart plays has helped to pacify and create them now as a corporate citizen of our community that responds to its needs.
One of the other things that strikes me from what she says that I'd really like to engage the two of you on. We on this station interview many Jamaicans or people of Jamaican origin who are doing well, and invariably they all have a strong input, a strong community spirit. What is it, Michelle Stoddart, Irwine Clare, that so influences our people, enthuses them towards not just doing well in business, but to have a strong community ethic? This is something we should understand better so that we can prize it the more, don't you think?
I think for me it's the pride, and it grounds you. It grounds you. You can talk about home, and you can talk about it lovingly when you're active in giving back, and you're active in making sure you don't lose your way, which is quite easy to do.
Yes, that's it.
In a foreign country. And just personally, I have to shout out my parents, Joyce and Oswald Stoddart.
Wonderful.
My father was
yes.
Yes, my father was a Rotary in the Rotary Club, and my mom was the commissioner for the Girl Guides Association. So see, my roots are about giving back, and I think that spoke to,
No, but look at that. That is important.
Yes.
Pause right there.
Yes.
This is important. It is those simple associations, as some would say, okay? At the local level. Yes, not in big city Kingston, even if Kingston now so big, but in Savlamar. These make the difference because they've taught and imbued in Michelle something, a spirit that she has now carried and amplified on a much larger scale with the consequences that you just outlined, Irwine Clare.
Yeah, indeed.
Now, hold on. This tells us something about the way we must go, we must train, and how we must live as a people, don't?
Indeed, and because similar beginnings for me, because again, pride.
Yes.
My mother too was involved in JS and all the stuff in my community.
Yes.
And you see, there's another side to it, is that wherever we go, and I say this for the majority of Jamaicans, wherever we go, we make it the best of Jamaica. And the best of Jamaica is to project ourselves that we're first of all, we're not satisfied with status quo. We're going to make changes.
Wherever we go, we make it the best for Jamaica.
Yes.
Now, Michelle Stoddart, that touches me, because Savlamar is going through some difficult times right now, as you know.
Very true.
Very true. And yet, it is what we're hearing and what we're transmitting on Irie Jam and the Bridge is that people within those communities, whatever their deficiencies, however representative they are, can go and can make good and can do well. Irwine, that must give us enthusiasm on this Ash Wednesday.
Without a doubt. And that is why, regardless of the challenges that Jamaica faces, and I know we have a crime situation, it not stopping many of us from coming home. It not stopping many of us from sending our remittances. It's not stopping the Alumni Association. It's not stopping Cornwall College Old Boys Association sending $5 million worth of computer equipment to help not only Cornwall but schools in Western Jamaica. It's not stopping the healthcare missions. It's because of our affiliation and our commit. And again, when you look back where we are also making strides in our respective spaces. One of the things that continue to elude us, though, Ron, is that we are still working on that collective approach. We are plentiful in our littleness and effectiveness, but the collective approach still continues to elude us. And when we get to that point, are forced to be reckoned with.
Well, that's that. I follow that entirely. I think there's some good signs. The fact that Andrew Holness, Mark Golding, and their teams could sit down last Sunday morning at crack of dawn and begin to talk is I hope not just a flash in the pan, but a beginning of that collectivity, that unity, that common cause striving that can cover over many of the deficiencies and sins.
I'd like to say, to Irwin's point, one of the things I made sure I pushed for when I got here, I called Irwin, I called Bobby Clark, and I said, this is where I am. What do you need?
Wow.
And we were able to produce some of the biggest events this property has ever seen. And we certainly would want to do that continuously with this group. And I need others like myself in positions like myself to do that. When you get somewhere, just reach back, reach beside you, and introduce your community to the place where you're at and bring them with you.
Well, that's
yes. Ronnie, one of the things I want to throw at Michelle is that, and in this country, it is just how it is. It's not a situation where you look for it. It exists. As a woman, in the role that you are, have you ever felt any obstacles or any challenges, or you felt that it's because you're a woman why something didn't happen or whatever? There's always this situation, Ron, especially in our society, where already men gets paid a lot more than women. That women are still not at the level where they should be.
Still?
Yes, sir.
Oh, Lord.
So, Michelle, how has that experience been for you?
It's definitely, as you say, yes. Maybe somebody in this role would have gotten to the title faster or, with more pay. But certainly with this company, I must say that they have they've entered this market with the purpose of addressing those issues. And they've done a great job in making sure that you're heard, a great job in making sure that diversity, equity, and inclusion is a part of their mission. And they've given me the task and others like myself the task in looking out for the situations that we know exist and making sure we are addressing them here.
But you see, we're so glad to hear that. We worry, is this going to spread? Hopefully it's infectious for us in Jamaica, and we have a road to follow still. But throughout the United States, there is this huge gap that we perceive from our distance. Tell me if it's there, between that kind of enlightened approach which Michelle speaks of, that Irwin posits, and other people who are bastions of patriarchy, racism, misogyny, all kind of different evils elsewhere in your land, colting the whole game. Come on.
So to address that head on, we see the shift.
Yes.
And I think what you see happening now, there's going to be a lot of backlash, but all of us who see the shift and are making movements in this time of transition, got to be prepared for the backlash. Yeah. And we're going to fight that just like how we had to fight to get to this point.
Boy, that's wisdom, and that sounds really good. Michelle, tell us, going forward, what are you dreaming? What do you see for your own organization, your own community, a spirit, and also that backward reach to back home that also is clearly close to your heart?
Sure. So I had introduced our current prime minister, to this property. He's been here twice with that very effort, maybe selfishly, of bringing a property like this to Jamaica. Then I'd be able to go home and work there, right? But we do have a property in the Bahamas that is going quite well. And as this company grows, I want to be a part of that growth, and I want to be able to enhance this mission, like I said, for not only women, keeping the diversity there, keeping equity and keeping inclusion, and making sure it's not a one-off where I am, but it is tailored throughout all the properties that we do open and grow. We have
need for a short break.
Yes.
When we come back, I want to ask about the succession. Are people who are second generation Jamaicans, are they as avid, are they as focused as Michelle Stoddart and her kind? There's more on the Public Eye and on Irie Jam. Soon come. Thanks for being with us on the Public Eye, linking with Irie Jam in New York, talking to Michelle Stoddart, Savlamar girl, making waves in New York City. I wanted to ask you, Michelle, want to bring in Irwine too. Are those who are your children, the grandchildren of the early migrants? Are they? How do we ensure that the Jamaican ethos runs in their blood too?
I think it definitely runs in their blood. There's definitely that connection.
Really?
We do need to visit home more. We need to take our children there. And we also need to introduce them to the things that we held precious, church, community organizations, get them involved.
Yes.
Because that is where the culture continues, right?
Yes.
Indeed.
Get them beyond Eastern Parkway on Labor Day. So each person really has to show their child, what we held dear.
Sure.
And what we hold dear.
Yes.
And follow that up with showing them how that will affect their entire life.
The communication is key, Irwine.
Indeed.
Yes.
You see, just this past Sunday, I had occasion to interview Brian Cunningham, born here in the United States of Jamaican parentage, and he's running for City Council, Assemblymatic seat, the 43rd Assemblymatic seat in Brooklyn, which is probably the largest, highest concentration of Caribbean nationals. And when asked about the connect to Jamaica, and he says it's right there in the home, because he says, listen, man, my curry chicken for dinner last night, whatever is left over is what I have for breakfast in the morning. That's a typical Jamaican home. We didn't have everything, but we felt we were the best kids on the block.
Yeah.
That's coming from the foundation that was brought here.
Yeah.
And what we see now taking place, and kudos go out to our embassies and to our consulates, and I think community-based leaders have to push this. We see this happening in our sports. We now see our children more now than ever positioning themselves to want to represent Jamaica on the world scale.
Great.
And so you find now that a lot more naturalizations, Jamaican naturalizations, are taking place. And kudos go out to recently, there was a big ceremony there in Miami, in Florida. And
yes, I heard of
Mayor
that.
was involved. Now we have done the same thing here in New York.
Yeah.
So these are the continued avenues that we now have to ensure. Because remember, they're born, they're running, so they won't be sending remittances home. They have no one to send it to, unless we now in Jamaica must now begin to put together packages and attractions and things to entice this population.
Well, this takes us to another knob of our discourse, because Michelle Stoddart, the vision, the prospect that I see for the Jamaican nation is a nation without borders, and where people, like your good self perhaps, are equally comfortable in Queens as you are in Savannah Lamar. and where your investments, your time are able to be shared, because technology, transportation, communication has changed that dynamic so radically and irrevocably over recent time. And we need to remove the barriers, we need to remove the shibboleths and the discriminations and all of the obstacles. Do you share that? That's where we need to go?
Absolutely. I mean, when I go back to Westmoreland, I think I was there in June, I'm still able to, thank God, just walk the street and
George
walk,
Street.
from up and down St. George's. I go to the bank and go visit friends and look for folks. I'm connected to Manning's, that is right there. I'm connected to United Presbyterian Church, Anglican Church, right there. So it's these things that I'm saying, you have to take your children home and get them connected. Like Irwine says, it's like, what are those packages, built-in memory and built-in history that we're going to pass on to our children to say, this is how you're connected to this place. The dishes like Irwine talked about. You hear every Italian will talk about, you got to go home to get the real pasta, right? Yes. So the American thing is not it. So you got to go home to get the real curry, to get the real
saltfish
soup,
and the gungo peas and everything else.
Exactly.
This is it. But our future, and it's not just a future of social compatibility. In my view, folk, it's essential to our economy. Is that we accept that a large proportion of our citizens, bona fide citizens, people contributing, people earning, people doing all the things that Jamaicans do, are going to be in Queens as well as in Kingston or Savlamar.
Right. You can go places here, Irwine, just real quick. You can go places here and people are asking for authentic things from Jamaica. Oh yes, of course. Right? Everybody who knows me, they go to Jamaica, they come back, they're bringing me the banana chips from Jamaica. I don't want to buy it here, right? Even if it's cheaper or whatever the deal, more accessible. I want you to bring it authentic.
Yes.
So we have to build that authentic trade between the rest of the world and Jamaica, where it's our products being made at home, being produced at home, that are filling the world with our culture.
And remove, Mr. Clare, some of the obstacles in terms of that compatibility. I keep pinching my regular co-host, the Honorable Parental Charles, who is not with us today, that I left on the order paper of Parliament when I retired a resolution to remove that effete unnecessary restriction that prevents people with American citizenship from holding office in Jamaica. No, it sat there, Michelle Stoddart, for 3 years, and they wouldn't give me the time to debate it. People from Savlamar know about shub. Shub, S-H-U-B. You have to give shub in order that you say, come on now, time comes, stop that foolishness. Indeed. We are all one, and we need to make use of the best talent. We need to make use of the closest collaboration wherever you are.
Indeed. And Ronnie, as we wrap up this segment, I just want Michelle to ask a final question. Young ladies, young girls, listen to you right now. Deciding on their pathway. What do you say to these youngsters, especially those in Jamaica at this point, Michelle?
I want them to know that when they go out into the world, are some of the most educated folks. They're not to be intimidated by anyone. Yeah. When it comes to education, they're not to be intimidated by being a woman, by being Jamaican, by having an accent. If you do, take yourself to any corporation, any business, and present as such, and be determined, be driven, and you too will succeed.
And make sure you go to school.
Absolutely.
Yes,
absolutely.
And that you learn to regard and respect yourself. That you don't have to look like anybody else, sound like anybody else. The integral beauty of Jamaican womanhood, humanity generally, but we're talking about our people now, is enough to carry you right where Michelle Stoddart and others are.
Indeed. And of course, as we celebrate, National Women's Month, it is indeed an honor for us, Ronnie, right here on the bridge, Irie Jam, to have the Vice President of Community Development, Resorts World Casino with us here, hailing all the way from Sav in Westmoreland, Miss Michelle Stoddart. I want to say thank you very much for joining us today, Michelle.
Thank you very much. Happy to meet you. Good. We'll talk again. Irwine, that's so nice. I'm really glad. Didn't know what to expect, and that came off so nicely.
Yes,
and plenty of good example and mentorship for our people, eh?
Indeed. And she's, like I said, one of our stalwarts in our community. An unassuming stalwart. You get things done. She doesn't go about it with fanfare. She just make it.
Just before you go, though, the key is communication.
Indeed.
Because there needs to be such a seamless channels. Such seamless channels of linkage between you there and us there. You have a critical mass in New York City and in the tri-state area, and we stretch out to them and backwards. That's why I appreciate the bridge and the linkage we do. Mm-hmm. And it has to become normative and unexceptional that this is it. There's no reason for us to be strangers or separated anymore.
Indeed. And just one last shout out I also want to say again, Ronnie, to all those in Jamaica and here in the diaspora, and the diaspora inclusive North America, Britain, wherever Jamaicans are, who stepped up to the plate to help our students who are stranded in Ukraine.
Yeah, man.
And the lessons that we can learn from that, and how we use that now going forth to fortify and better prepare ourselves in recognizing that in unison big things can happen.
Well, this is the whole thing, and it is you who are abroad, away from some of the pettiness and the maelstrom of life on the rock. Indeed, this is another area where the shub has to come from. Yes. If you, am I putting words in your mouth, saying to us in Jamaica, listen, we know that there are differences, we share some of those differences, but come, stop this nonsense. If we're going to deal with $113 oil and all of the other asperities that are being foisted upon us, we cannot afford contrived differences. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's important. And just a last word on the students. Know that they are coming back. Yes, it is for us, you and us, to make sure that they are not prejudiced in their schooling by having to leave that opportunity.
Indeed.
Yes.
Ronnie, just to let you and your listeners know that this evening on Moving Forward here on Irie Jam at 8 p.m., special guests, we have officials of the Jamaica Teachers Association has been here in the diaspora. We're going to be talking to them because we have some keen interest on on education in Jamaica now, inclusive of school reopening next week. And
that was our feature earlier. I'm going to go listen to you tonight.
Yes,
man.
as well as what is this sixth form thing all about? Yes. And we need to be talking about that.
Well,
so, Ronnie,
keep it going. Thanks so much for the link today. All the best to you. Irwine Clare, a Jamaican patriot, friend of the country, acting out his responsibilities on Irie Jam, our sister station in New York. And that's it for the Public Eye for today. Thanks so much to Acting Chief Education Officer Dr. Kasan Troupe for EduFocus today. That's so important for us, and also to that entertaining interview with Michelle Stoddart, the Vice President of Community Development for Resorts World Casino in New York City. Thanks to all the Public Eye and Open Mind Bridge Nation callers and listeners. And remember that you can live stream us on www.thebridge99fm.com. Thanks to LaFane Wigan, Richie Rainford, Jeffrey Brown, the entire production team here at the Bridge 99 and the entire Irie Jam Jamaica family.